I've been waiting for this to come out, and I am so excited that Money Heist Part 5 has finally arrived. We've only got Volume 1 at this point, but are you binging? The gang has been shut in the Bank of Spain for over 100 hours, with their darkest moment upon them after losing one of their own, and it appears they no longer have an escape plan. Just when it seems like nothing else could go wrong, an enemy comes on the scene that is much more powerful than any they've faced, the army. The end of the greatest heist in history is approaching, and what began as a robbery will turn into a war. So Part 5 picks up right where Part 4 left off. Lisbon has been rescued and out of custody and then transported to the bank amidst the mourning for the loss of Nairobi. And the clock is ticking as the crew needs to get the gold out before everything just comes crashing in. So like I said, this is only Volume 1 of Part 5. We have to wait until December for Volume 2, which I think is going to be interminable. These 5 episodes, like really the whole show has been, are filled with amazing tension. We have the mounting urgency of the crew who's trying to get out, with the police and army literally coming to beat down the doors. The unforeseen and uncontrollable variables of the hostages within the bank always present a mounting threat. And then there are the complications on the outside that continue to seemingly throw the plan out of whack. So many of the situations left me feeling that the characters were in real peril. The scenes are crafted in a way to increase the excitement to just an extreme level. And because characters have died in previous parts, there's no guarantee that everybody is going to come out of this one intact. The show continues to do its back and forth storytelling, sometimes taking us back in time to show us how the current situation was set up, which gives us small hints at how some predicament is going to be solved. Other times there are flashbacks to reconnect us with characters, maybe to rekindle emotions or even remind them and us why we care. Now there are a couple of longer stretching flashbacks that we get glimpses of over the course of several episodes. One I think is really meant to endear characters to us, even more than they already may be. So is this emotional manipulation or just a really effective story arc? I think it's kind of a mix of both. Now, there's another flashback sequence that spans several episodes as well, and at this point I'm not totally certain where it's leading or what the larger purpose is. Maybe it's going to have a resolution in Volume 2, but that's also the danger, I think, of splitting up a season. We get a portion of the story that should be leading someplace, but no resolution or explanation is delivered on every single thing. That's a little frustrating to me. I want the reassurance that the show is going to complete the circle and let me in on those purposes. Now, something that I really appreciate in this show is how they find ways to bring back characters who are no longer an active part of what's going on. This enables us to reconnect with characters that we have loved, but who no longer participate in the current heist. Each of the episodes is about 50 minutes long, and at some point you may find yourself wondering, how many twists and turns can continue before this just gets ridiculous? How many scenarios can the professor be anticipating? At some point, this gets into the absurd and becomes wildly unbelievable, right? I think those are legitimate concerns. Now, I was worried going into this part about how they can continue to deliver believable circumstances that keep us engaged in the characters and the storyline. For Part 5, the show has given us some moments where plans appear to fall apart, where there are unanticipated events that come into play, and for which no alternative route had even been considered. And in those moments, it takes the show from teetering on predictability to something that is just about heart attack inducing with the suspense. And to complement those sequences, we get some very powerful character interactions. For example, there's a moment between Palermo, Helsinki, Bogota, and a hostage that just drives up the adrenaline. There are massive stakes at play with conversations and decisions that are going on in the background that are then directly tied to those characters' current actions. And all the while, there's a ticking clock to act on something. The tension was palpable and I loved it. I was so sucked in. It was like I was having tunnel vision while I was watching. I think that's also what makes this show so great. Yeah, the tension and urgency are extreme and draw us in, but the real heart of the show is the characters. The story is able to take a collection of really flawed criminals and make them extremely sympathetic. They're each charming in their own ways, and even if we don't love them, we can love to hate them. And that's also a difficult thing to accomplish with such a large ensemble cast. Now, I was surprised at how quickly the time went by while watching. The episodes moved fairly quickly, even though there were times where the slower pace became noticeable. I think that happened most in that flashback sequence I mentioned, where it doesn't feel like it has totally resolved itself yet. I love the unraveling that we see happening all over the story. As things go awry, characters begin to lose faith, and this can happen both inside the bank or outside, and then on both sides of the law, too. The doubt that is created in the characters breaks some of their resolve, which I then greatly enjoy how it has this domino effect on decisions and actions. The story uses these circumstances to create the chaos that is so intertwined with this show's storytelling. I mean, it's organized chaos for the most part, but it's still chaos. So if you've been craving a show with some action, this is certainly delivering. The battles that go on are pretty epic with just a ton of carnage all around. I do find it curious, though, that the guns run out of ammo much more slowly than they should. But, I also don't get caught up in that detail because the fights are just so intense and I'm having so much fun watching. So overall, Part 5, Volume 1 is a high-intensity thrill ride with plenty of action. The story continues to deliver the deception and misdirection while managing to increase the tension to extreme levels, and all the while still retaining its heart with the charismatic characters at the center of the narrative. There are still unanswered questions and some scenarios that need to be resolved, which I can only hope do find resolution when the series reaches its conclusion with the second volume. There's some sex, maybe very brief nudity, and a ton of profanity and violence. Because this is only half of the final part of the show, I'm only going to give a tentative score. How we reach the conclusion is certainly going to affect how I view the final part in its entirety. But for now, I give Money Heist Part 5, Volume 1, 4.5 out of 5 couches. So do you have a favorite character in the show? I really can't narrow it down to one, but I think my top 3 are Tokyo, Helsinki, and Nairobi. Let me know yours though in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.